When the toast began, I was still holding my fork midair, halfway to tasting the lemon risotto I'd looked forward to all week. But my son's voice, a little too loud for the candle-lit restaurant, stopped every conversation around us. Before we dig in, I just want to thank the most generous woman I know, my mom. He clinked his glass with a little too much showmanship, pausing until even the waiter refilling water stood still. I should have known. The glass clink was always Daniel's curtain call. Ashley, his wife, beamed beside him, recording the moment on her phone. "This isn't just a birthday dinner," she said. "It's the beginning of our family's next chapter." She handed me a gift bag. Inside was a baby onesie printed with "Best Grandma Ever." My hands trembled slightly as I pulled it out, forcing a laugh that came out cracked and uncertain. "We thought it was time," Ashley added, her voice dipped in sugar. Daniel smiled. "Especially since we'll have more space soon." I blinked. "More space?" Ashley leaned across the table, all manicured fingers and curated warmth. "We're just so thankful you agreed, Mary. Not every mom would be this generous. Honestly, we're so lucky." A beat passed. My eyebrows knit slightly. "Agreed?" Daniel stood, tapping his spoon against his glass. "Let's make this official." The restaurant quieted. The flicker of Edison bulbs overhead seemed to sharpen the silence. "We're moving into Mom's apartment," Daniel announced, his voice lilting with forced gratitude. "She doesn't need all that space anymore, and with the baby coming, it's the perfect time. It's such a gift, honestly, so generous." The clinking of glasses followed. People smiled politely. Ashley's phone was still recording, catching every angle of my frozen expression. I didn't move. My fork was still suspended midair. Daniel turned toward me. "Right, Mom?" I nodded, not because I agreed, but because the entire room had locked onto my reaction like a hawk on prey. The pressure snapped shut like a bear trap. I smiled, barely, and took a sip of wine that tasted like vinegar. That was the moment, not when they announced it, not when Ashley waved the onesie like a surrender flag. It was when I realized they had rehearsed me. The table erupted into conversations again, wedding memories, nursery colors, someone's keto diet. But I didn't hear them. I just stared at my hands in my lap, pulse roaring in my ears. Ashley launched into a monologue about paint swatches. "Of course, we'll let you keep your plants on the balcony. It'll still feel like home, just with a crib and some fresh curtains." Daniel chuckled. "And don't worry, we'll give you plenty of time to move. No pressure." No pressure, just a live announcement in front of friends, coworkers, neighbors, a digital video soon to be posted online, a carefully curated betrayal. I excused myself halfway through dessert. Daniel gave me that look, the one I hadn't seen since he was 16, and I didn't let him drive the car after curfew, as if I was being unreasonable. Ashley offered to call a rideshare. I declined. I walked 3 blocks home in heels I hadn't worn in years until my feet bled. It was the only thing that made the screaming in my head go quiet. When I finally got home, the apartment, my apartment, felt colder, smaller. I checked the locks twice, sat on the couch in silence. My husband's photo stared back at me from the bookshelf, and suddenly it didn't feel like comfort. It felt like a warning. I opened the old filing cabinet out of instinct. Buried beneath tax forms and holiday cards was a manila folder with medical documents. I hadn't touched it since the hospital stay during my pneumonia 2 years ago. There it was, a power of attorney form. My name, Daniel's name, my signature. I had been half delirious when he asked me to sign insurance paperwork. I texted my lawyer at 11:53 p.m. "Is this still valid?" Her reply came before sunrise. "Yes, unless you formally revoked it. We need to talk today." I stared at the message, my hands trembling. Daniel wasn't guessing. He wasn't asking. He was executing. At 8:15 a.m., I opened Instagram. Ashley had already posted a reel. Slow pans of my living room, soft indie music, baby-themed filters. Goodbye, Grandma's place. Hello, our new home. My bookshelf, my windows, my husband's chair. The caption read, "Couldn't be more grateful to begin this journey in the home that raised so much love." 37 comments, all praise. She must be so proud. Such a blessing. I called my lawyer. She asked one question. Do you still want to fight for your home? I said nothing at first. Then, yes, but I want to do it quietly. She told me everything would need to go through her. She also told me to watch what I say in writing. They're not waiting for your consent. They're documenting your silence. I returned home from her office exhausted, only to find an envelope slipped under my door. Again, same thick paper, same clean formatting. Inside, a preliminary transfer agreement. My name typed, their names typed. The only thing blank? My signature. Daniel's cover note said, "No rush, just need this by Friday to move forward with the bank." Bank. They were using my apartment as leverage, already. I stared at the contract in my kitchen, then opened my phone and checked Daniel's recent texts. Not one said, "Can we talk?" Not one said, "Would you be okay with this?" Just instructions, logistics, smiles. They thought I was done, that I'd nod again, like I did at the dinner table, that I'd smile, sip wine, and vanish quietly into a one-bedroom senior condo somewhere. But I wasn't done. I was just getting started. If you've ever been overlooked after giving your all, type 1 below. Because silence doesn't mean surrender, and I was about to make mine very loud. The email subject line simply read, "Urgent, limited capacity clause." It came at 6:12 a.m., just as I was pouring coffee and trying to breathe through the growing knot in my chest. The sender wasn't Daniel. It was a paralegal from a firm I'd never heard of. The attached PDF made my throat close up. It referenced me, by name, and included phrases like anticipated diminished capacity, verbal consent implied, and asset transition roadmap. That last one? That was the exact phrase Daniel had used in the email he sent the day after the birthday dinner. Only this time, it was on legal letterhead. I dropped the mug. It shattered on the kitchen floor. They weren't just hinting. They were documenting, pre-building a narrative. I texted Annette, my lawyer. "They're moving fast. I need to come in." At the office, she didn't offer tea, didn't make small talk, just pulled out a yellow legal pad and asked, "What else did you sign during your hospital stay?" My heart sank. "I don't know. I was on oxygen and antibiotics. Daniel brought the forms." She narrowed her eyes. "Did you read them?" "No, I trusted him." "That's what they count on," she said flatly. "Do you have copies?" We rifled through my old folder again. I hadn't opened it in 2 years. Pneumonia had taken me down hard. I remembered barely being able to lift my head. Daniel had appeared with soft reassurance and a pen. "I just need these for insurance, Mom. Don't worry about the details." Now I understood. He had slipped in documents, buried in the fine print, that gave him temporary financial proxy if I were ever deemed mentally compromised. It had all been legal and intentional. Annette tapped the page twice. "We need to revoke this immediately. File a formal notice with the state and notarize it. If Daniel gets even one doctor, any doctor, to say you've been forgetful, confused, or mentally declining, he could petition for financial guardianship." I looked at her. "He could take everything?" "Not directly. But he could freeze you, lock your accounts, stall your sale, contest your decisions in court." I swallowed hard. All because I didn't read something? All because you trusted the wrong person at the wrong moment. Back home, I began cleaning digitally. First, I reset passwords on every financial account. Then, I enabled 2FA, changed emergency contacts, and froze my credit profile. I removed Daniel from my medical records, from my cell phone favorites, from the in case of emergency section of my ID. I created a new folder on my desktop titled Proof. Inside it, screenshots of Ashley's Instagram posts. The transfer form Daniel mailed me, a scanned copy of the hospital power of attorney, and a journal entry, dated, typed, and signed, summarizing everything I remembered about that birthday dinner. That night, I didn't sleep. I just watched the hallway light flicker from the other room and thought about the years I'd given Daniel. The tuition loans, the rent I paid when he lost his job, the car insurance, the emergency IVF loan he and Ashley begged for but never used. I began making a list of everything I had ever given them. I titled it, Debt They Don't Remember. The next morning, my phone buzzed again. A new email, this time from Ashley. Subject, Exciting Nursery Update. Body, We're leaning toward neutrals now, clean slate, soft tones, would love your input. Attached was a mood board with images of minimalist cribs, rocking chairs, and a photo of my bedroom, digitally overlaid with their imagined furniture. I felt bile rise in my throat. They weren't imagining a life in my apartment. They were erasing mine. Later that day, I called the building manager. Quick question, I said, trying to sound casual. Who accessed the front gate last night? He hesitated. Your son used the spare key, said he was dropping something off. I hadn't asked him to. I hadn't given permission. I filed a lock change request that same afternoon. Then I moved every important document into a metal lockbox and slid it under my bed. I started journaling each interaction, including one where Ashley popped by without texting, holding an iced coffee and a white gift bag. Hazelnut cream, she said. Your favorite. I didn't drink it. I watched as she wandered into the living room without asking, eyeing my bookshelves like a real estate agent. I didn't react, I just asked. Ashley, when did your OB confirm the pregnancy? She blinked. Oh, it's early. Too early for tests. But I know. No ultrasound, no paperwork, no truth. Later, when she went to the bathroom, I peeked into her open purse. Inside, a printed Zillow estimate of my property, a floor plan with red markings, sticky notes labeled stage here, crib wall, and closet demo. They weren't just moving in. They were flipping it, maybe not even for themselves. That evening, I made a call. Iris answered on the first ring. Tell me everything, she said. And I did. From the power of attorney to the pregnancy lie, the transfer documents to the unlocked gate, every detail, every screenshot. She was quiet for a long time. Then, we're going to sell it, quietly, off market, to someone we trust. No listing? Word of mouth only, cash buyer preferred, keeps them from stalling with court objections. I exhaled. Yes, do it. At 2 a.m., Ashley posted a video titled, A New Home Begins with Love. It showed her standing on my balcony, holding her stomach, narrating a monologue about motherhood and hope. There were piano chords in the background. The caption read, She said yes. We're so grateful. I took a screenshot. Then I renamed my desktop folder, Counterattack. If you believe legal literacy is a form of self-defense, type 2 in the comments. Because the greatest betrayal doesn't happen with shouting, it starts with paperwork. The knock came hard and early, 6:47 a.m. sharp. I was still tying the belt of my robe when I heard it. Not the usual neighbor's knock or the polite tapping of a package delivery. No, this was the kind of knock that already carried an accusation. When I peeked through the peephole, I saw Daniel, alone. In a blazer too formal for this early in the day, holding a manila envelope with 2 fingers like it was a ceasefire document in a war he thought he was winning. Mom, he called, we need to talk. I didn't open the door. I leaned against it, silent. He jiggled the knob once, then again, forcefully. A pause. That pause told me something he hadn't meant to reveal. He'd brought the old key, but I'd changed the locks 2 days earlier. He tried it. Jiggle. Fail. Harder. Jiggle. Then silence. Mom, open up, he said, softer now, as if pretending this wasn't a power move. Ashley must have sent him. She never liked confrontation, only the optics that followed. Eventually, when I didn't respond, his tone shifted. Iris called someone we know, he said. You're selling the apartment? Are you serious? I said nothing. I stared at the doorframe like it was holding the last of my patience in place. You're sabotaging your own family, he snapped. You realize that, right? He shoved the envelope through the door crack. This is your last chance to be reasonable. I waited until I heard his footsteps fade, then picked it up. Inside, a formal request for transitional occupancy review. a statement from a firm I didn't recognize, and worst of all, a highlighted clause that read, "Pending medical guardianship petition." They weren't just nudging, they were preparing to declare me legally incompetent. I texted Annette one line, "They're escalating." That night, I spread every document across my kitchen table like it was a war map. I spoke aloud into my phone, recording a full verbal summary. Transaction log, October 3rd, withdrawal for groceries. October 6th, wire to private escrow. October 8th, first contact with buyer. Clear cognition, no medication. Cross-referencing documents and screenshots. Attaching here. I wasn't paranoid. I was proving I was present. I needed timestamps, voice clarity, intent. Every move had to be airtight. By the time I finished uploading everything to Annette's secure folder, it was almost 3 a.m. I slept with the lockbox beneath my bed. In the days that followed, I played my part. I commented on Ashley's latest nursery photos. "So sweet. Love the beige palette." I responded to Daniel's texts with short, warm sentences. Nothing that could be used against me. Just enough to keep their illusion intact. Behind the scenes, I was orchestrating everything. Iris had found me a 2-bedroom cabin 2 states away. Nothing fancy, just a fixer-upper near a lake with crooked windows and a wraparound porch that creaked in the wind. Perfect. The seller was a retired mechanic named Hal. He didn't ask questions. We agreed to a cash offer if I waived inspection and could close fast. I wired the funds the next day. Daniel thought I was watching cooking shows. I was packing the life they hadn't asked permission to steal. I hired Frank, a handyman from my church, quiet, reliable, and loyal. He boxed my husband's tools, the old photo albums, and the heirloom china without a single question. I told the building superintendent I'd be traveling indefinitely. "And please don't share my address with anyone claiming to be family, unless they bring a court order." He nodded with hesitation, but he nodded. Meanwhile, Ashley posted a video titled, "Legacy Begins with Love." She sat on my couch, one hand on her flat stomach, talking to the camera about how Grandma's home will always be part of our child's story. I took a screenshot, filed it under Exhibit H. The comments, thousands. "She's so lucky to have you. Your mom must be thrilled. She's glowing with generosity." I wanted to scream. Instead, I brewed chamomile tea and wrote out a list of every person who might believe them before ever calling me. That list was longer than it should have been. 2 days before the final close, I left one small clue. An empty suitcase by the hallway window, just visible enough for Ashley to see next time she dropped in without asking. I knew she'd tell Daniel. I wanted her to. They'd think I was taking a short trip. They'd believe they still had time. They didn't. That night, Ashley showed up again, alone. She didn't knock. She stood in the hallway yelling just loud enough for neighbors to hear. "You said we could stay. You said this was ours." I opened the door just wide enough for her camera to capture my face, but not my voice. I said one word, "Leave." She caught it, cried, uploaded the video that night. The title? "When Family Betrays You, a Pregnancy Without a Home." It exploded online. I let it burn. The next morning, Daniel texted me a PDF labeled, "Final Deed Transfer." He and Ashley had both signed. My line remained blank. The message, "If you want to avoid court, sign and we'll forget all of this." I forwarded it to Annette. Then I replied to Daniel for the first time in days, "You'll be served within the week. Do not contact me again." Then I powered off my phone and packed the last box. If you've ever fought back in silence and won, type 3 below. Because some people only understand boundaries when they hit one they can't cross. It started with a white box. No return address, no postage, just tissue paper tied in gold ribbon and left on my front porch like a peace offering. Inside was a framed sonogram and a handwritten card. "Can we start over? A and D." The sonogram looked familiar. Too familiar. I opened my laptop, typed in generic ultrasound sample image into a pregnancy app I remembered Ashley using months ago, and there it was. Same grainy photo, same position, same timestamp. They hadn't even tried to make a new lie. They'd printed a fake, framed it. That night, I didn't sleep. Not because I was scared, but because I knew what came next. Saturday, 6:42 p.m. The gravel crunched under tires. I watched from my kitchen window as a silver SUV parked at the edge of the dirt path that led up to my cabin. Daniel stepped out first, wearing the same blazer he'd worn the morning he tried to force the key into my old lock. Ashley followed, dressed in heels, holding a bottle of wine. They looked too polished for a surprise visit. I turned off the porch light, let the silence carry. They knocked once, then again, harder. "Mom," Daniel called. "We just want to talk." Ashley's voice cracked on cue. "You're shutting out your grandchild, is that what you want?" I didn't answer. I stood behind the door, still, hands on the back of the chair, calm and immovable. They stood outside for 22 minutes. I timed it. Eventually, the bottle was left on the top step. Its label, forgiveness, Pinot Noir. I poured it down the drain without opening it. The next morning, my lawyer called. "The funds are finalized," Annette said. "The apartment is sold, deed filed. You're free." I stepped out onto my porch, phone in one hand, coffee in the other, and took the deepest breath I had in months. But that wasn't the end. Daniel texted that night. "You win. Hope it was worth losing your family." I didn't reply. I screenshot it, filed it under proof, final messages. Then I deleted his contact for good. Days passed. I started rebuilding. I joined a local food co-op, replanted herbs in a garden bed, had coffee with Claire, my neighbor who divorced her husband after 40 years and now ran a small soap business from her garage. "You didn't give them what they wanted," she said over mint tea. "That makes you dangerous now." I smiled. Dangerous wasn't a word people had ever used for me. It felt right. Then came the voicemail. "Hi, Mary." Ashley's voice played through the speaker. "I know things got messy, and we just wanted to keep the door open. For the baby, for the future. Please call." I deleted it, because the only door that mattered was the one they'd never walk through again. On a foggy Thursday morning, I met Annette for coffee and paperwork. No drama, no courtroom, just clean, legal closure. We finalized my updated will. Everything I owned, from my cabin to my savings to the silver-framed wedding photo on my nightstand, was now placed in a community trust, created in my late husband's name, the Quiet Exit Fund. Its mission? Support older women escaping financial or emotional abuse by family. Daniel and Ashley weren't just removed from my will. They were legally barred from contesting it. No fallback clause, no appeals. Annette slid the final document across the table. "If they try, they'll lose," she said. "The paper trail is unbreakable." I took the folder. It felt like armor in my hands. A week later, my niece Melissa called. "I think Daniel knows," she said. "He's posting cryptic quotes again." Sure enough, his latest post read, "Betrayal always comes from the ones closest to you." Ashley had updated her Instagram bio to "Chosen family only." I laughed out loud for the first time in weeks, a short, sharp release. "Let them quote," I told Melissa. "They lost the right to my name when they tried to steal it." 6 weeks later, a young family moved into my old apartment. I saw the photos online. No baby announcement, no influencer filter. Just a couple smiling over takeout boxes in the living room. And in the background, the bookshelf my husband built. Still standing. They hadn't torn it down. They'd added plants to it. Closure doesn't always look like revenge. Sometimes it looks like someone else treating your space with the care your family didn't. The last message came on a Tuesday. This time not from Daniel or Ashley, but from Daniel's college roommate. "Saw what they did. You were right to cut them off. Wish my mom had done the same before my sister drained her dry." I replied with one sentence. "Thank you." Because this wasn't just about me anymore. It was about naming something people live through in silence for years. And I was done being quiet. If you believe peace is worth protecting, at any cost, type 4 below. Because silence can be a prison, or a sword. I made mine the latter.